the next bone is femur. The femur is a long bone having the upper end, the lower end and the shaft. The upper end is easily distinguished from the lower end by the presence of a large globular head which is directed upwards and medially it is articulating with the acetabulum of the hip bone. The anterior and the posterior aspect of the bone can be easily distinguished by the fact that the anterior surface is smooth and the posterior surface is marked by the presence of a prominent vertical ridge which is called the linea aspera. The anterior surface of this bone is convex forwards. It is convex forwards. So by this information we can distinguish that this femur belongs to right side or left side. So this femur is belonging to the left side. If I hold it in my right hand, the convexity of the femur is going backwards and though the head is directing medially. So this bone belongs to the left side. Now we are starting with the upper end. Apart from the head, neck, the femur has two more projections. These are called the greater trochanter and the lesser trochanter. Head is directed upwards and somewhat forwards. The head is directed upwards and forwards. It is more rounded as compared to the humerus. In the center, we can see that there is a pit that is also known as fovea. Now, the neck connects the head to the shaft. The neck joins the shaft at an angle of 125 degree. You can see this angle is the 125 degree. The greater trochanter and the lesser trochanter are situated at the junction of the neck. Now the next is the greater trochanter. The greater trochanter forms the large quadrangular projection on the lateral aspect of the upper end of the femur. It is a large quadrangular projection. The upper and the posterior part of the greater trochanter project upwards beyond the level of the neck and thus comes to have a medial surface. On this surface we can see there is a depressed area. This is known as trochanteric fossa. The anterior surface of this greater trochanter has a large rough area for the muscular attachments and the lateral surface is also marked for the area of the muscle attachments. Now the next is the lesser trochanter. It is conical in shape and it points medially and the backwards. The posterior part of the greater trochanter and the lesser trochanter is joined by a prominent ridge which is called as intertrochanteric crest. A little above the middle of this crest, there presents a tubercle. This is called as quadrate tubercle. Anteriorly, the junction of the neck and the shaft is marked by a line. This is known as intertrochanteric line. The upper end of this intertrochanteric line meets the greater trochanter and the lower end of this intertrochanteric line meets the spiral line which will further meet the linea aspera. Next is the shaft. The shaft of the femur has a forward convexity. It is smooth anteriorly and posteriorly there is present the roughened vertical ridge. This is called the linea aspera. The shaft is triangular. It has three borders: the lateral border, the medial border and the posterior border. The posterior border is also known as the linea aspera. And the three surfaces are anterior, the lateral surface and the medial surface. Now this is the linea aspera. Linea aspera in the both upper part as well as the lower part, it diverges to form two lips. In the upper part, the medial lip is continuous with the spiral line and the lateral lip goes towards this gluteal tuberosity. This luffered area is known as gluteal tuberosity, and below this forms the lateral supracondylar and medial supracondylar lines. Between these two lines, this surface is known as the popliteal surface, and here it is known as the posterior surface. Next we come to the lower end. The lower end of the femur consists of two large condyles, the medial condyle and the lateral condyle. These two condyles are joined anteriorly on this aspect, and posteriorly the two condyles project much beyond the plane of the shaft, and here they are separated by the intercondylar notch. The anterior aspect of the two condyles is marked by an articular area for the patella. This area is concave from side to side to accommodate the convex posterior surface of the patella. It is divided into a medial part and a lateral part. This lateral part is larger as compared to the medial part. Inferiorly, the condyles of the femur articulate with the condyles of the tibia to form the knee joint. Each condyle bears a large convex articular surface which is continuous anteriorly with the patellar surface. When viewed from the medial side, there is a prominent ridge. This ridge is known as medial epicondyle. The most marked point of this medial epicondyle is known as the adductor tubercle. When viewed from the lateral side, this prominent ridge is known as lateral epicondyle. Now we are coming to the attachments on the femur. First of all, we will be discussing the muscles which are inserted into the femur. The first muscle is the gluteus minimus. It is inserted onto the anterior aspect of the greater trochanter. Next is the gluteus medius. It is inserted into the oblique strip which is running downwards and forwards across the lateral surface of the greater trochanter. Next is the piriformis. Piriformis is inserted onto the upper border of the greater trochanter. Next, obturator internus and the gemelli. This is the medial surface. On the medial surface of the greater trochanter are inserted obturator internus and the two gemelli. Next to muscle is the iliacus and the psoas major. They are inserted into the lesser trochanter. Pectineus muscle is inserted along a line descending from the root of the lesser trochanter to the upper end of the linea aspera in between the gluteal tuberosity and the spiral line. Now the deep fibers are inserted into the deep fibers of the gluteus maximus are inserted into the gluteal tuberosity. The adductor longus is inserted into the middle one-third of the linea aspera. Next muscle is the adductor magnus. Adductor magnus is inserted into the medial margin of the gluteal tuberosity, then medial supracondylar line up to the adductor tubercle. The adductor brevis is inserted in between the insertions of the pectineus medially and adductor magnus laterally. Now we are going to discuss the muscles which are taking origin from the femur. First muscle is the vastus lateralis. The vastus lateralis has a long linear origin. The line begins at the upper end of the intertrochanteric line, passes along the anterior border and then the lower border of the greater trochanter and then to the lateral margin of the gluteal tuberosity up to the lateral lip of the linea aspera. Is the vastus medialis. It also has a long linear origin. It arises from the lower part of the intertrochanteric line, then the spiral line, then the medial lip of the linea aspera, then the medial supracondylar line. Vastus intermedius arises from the upper 3/4 of the anterior surface and the lateral surface of the shaft. The medial surface does not give origin to any muscle. The short head of the biceps femoris arises from the linea aspera and the upper part of the lateral supracondylar line. Next muscle is popliteus. Popliteus arises by a tendon from the anterior part of the groove which is present on the lateral aspect. This is also called as groove for the popliteus.